I think not knowing who God is and not knowing that there is someone out there that cares and loves for you. In September of 2020, I moved out of home for the very first time. And I moved across the country. It was a very big step, and it was very exciting at the time. But a couple months after that, pretty quickly, it seemed like life seemed to hit me a little bit. I think the reality of it all kind of set in. And it was a big shock. Things were different, life was different, it just didn't feel quite the same. I was more on my own. And I think because of that situation, that environment, I came to realize pretty quickly that some things weren't right. My relationship with God, my knowledge of God, it wasn't quite where it needed to be. Because of that, things were a lot harder than I wish they were. And so, with all that in mind, and with the struggle that was going on, I decided I needed to do something about it. So me and a couple of buddies that I was living with at the time, we decided to take a night and just go and enjoy the stars. So we went to our favorite spot, we called it the creek. And it was nothing special, but it was just this part where there was a little bridge over a creek up in the boonies of Virginia. It was our favorite spot. So we went there one night and I decided to take some alone time. And I decided to lay in the middle of this bridge. I remember laying there, looking up at the stars. I could hear the water rushing under me. And it seemed like I was in my own little world. And I just laid there and I looked up at the stars. And I started to say a prayer. It was one of those angry prayers where I wondered where God had been all this time. Why I didn't know who he was. Why I hadn't felt his presence in such a long time. And in that moment, I laid there. I laid there for probably about 10 or 15 minutes. A scripture came to my mind that I had read before I had left. And it was Psalm 147, verse 4. And it says, "He telleth the number of the stars, and he calleth them by their name." And in that moment, I felt with all my heart that God knew my name. That he knew who I was. He knew my situation. And he wanted me to feel differently. He wanted me to change. He wanted me to come to know who he was. And that love just went all the way through me. I felt it in every part of my body. And it was one of the first times in my life that I actually felt an answer to a prayer. And one that was undeniable. That I knew that he knew that I knew. And that moment right there, I see now as a pivotal moment in my conviction, in my faith. And whenever I go through a hard moment, I think of that. And to be honest, I can still remember the stars that I was looking at to this day. And it gives me strength to keep going.